Welcome back to the podcast after a long hiatus.
Attack for 20, episode 11, with a featured guest.
Hi, I'm Pheano. I got top 8 at the Pro Tour here with my buddies.
Pheano most notably couldn't sabotage Prism from not LLing.
I tried.
Oh, there's so many funny stories about that. So it's been a while. You guys might notice I sound a little raspy still. We're just trying to do like kind of a recap of Pro Tour Lille. And then also I know a lot of people are kind of curious to see what we think of the CC meta going into US Nationals. There's already been a couple of Nationals events. So this is going to be a little bit more of a laid back episode. We're going to talk about some stories from France and also what we think of the new CC format.
If I can say something real quick, I want to actually thank you guys for your other episodes, the talking about the draft form and everything. That was honestly super helpful for the Pro Tour. The talking about like the pack collation and all sorts of like the statistics of pull rates of things. That was honestly really fucking helpful.
Yeah, that's what we aim to do. We
Great
can't
content.
if we can't perform well, hopefully someone who listens to us can.
That was like my experience in Singapore. A lot of people were saying, hey, like the podcast helped. And they're like, how'd you do in draft? I'm like, I 2-4 draft. They're like, I 6-0 draft. Your podcast was so helpful. How'd you do? I'm like, I 2-4.
Those who can't do teach.
Yeah.
We're washed up now. I think first things first, Pheano got top 8 at Pro Tour Lille. What was your favorite part about the whole like France experience?
Oh, so many good parts. The number one thing that comes to mind was the food. I had such a good time dining there. I went to Europe for 2 weekends. I started by going the weekend before to London for Pokemon Worlds. And Pokemon was just a blast. Pokemon Worlds is always a good time. I just went to hang out because I was already in Europe. Might as well go to hang out. And then the food was just a travesty there. And my whole trip was just absolutely cursed. It was just every day a new terrible thing would happen. And it got to the point that I just said, fuck it, and left early for Lille, changed my bookings with my hotels and stuff. And I ended up making friends with someone on the bus trip to Lille and told them how bad my food experience in London was. And she was like, I got you. I live in Lille. And she spent like an hour on the bus just writing up a list of all of the local watering spots for food. Not the like tourist attraction places, just the like, if you live here, you know this place is good, which is exactly what I wanted. And I ended up going to, I think, 9 out of 12 spots on it because the other ones were closed.
Yeah.
They were just like closed for vacation or something. And I'm not used to people giving me good food recommendations. 9 out of 9 of the places I went to were some of the best food I've ever had. It was incredible. I was having the time of my life there, just gorging. One of the places was a bakery. It was so good that I went back in for seconds, and then I went back in for thirds. I was being a fat American. It was great.
Oh man, yeah. I thought the food in Lille was pretty good, although I think maybe you missed out. I think you could have won the Pro Tour if you had went to the KFC, because apparently there are some special powers for the KFC in Lille. Everybody who like won the tournament like ate there the night before.
I don't know. I think I discovered some other special powers. Apparently, I was wearing the same ratty blue shirt for day 2 of Lille as I was day 2 of Indy, and I did not know that. So I guess that's my lucky shirt now.
Oh, you gotta wear that shirt all the time.
I hate it. That shirt is just disgusting, but it's I was overheating the entire weekend. I was like melting. My brain could not function with how hot I was.
Michael, how was your France experience?
It was fun. I also ate fun things. I think we went to that same bakery that you did,
Was it
Pheano.
Paul?
Paul?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't remember, but Leslie and I went back as well. Wait, is Paul the chain or is
Yeah,
that
Paul's
something
a
else?
chain, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a Paul in the mall, not that one. There was one in like the old town. That one was really good. And then there was another bakery like 10 minutes north of there
Yeah.
that was even better. That was like like I don't remember the name, but it was like a famous bakery and
Yeah, it was
like
like kind of fancy. When you enter, you have to like kind of walk through and almost enter a courtyard if you want to dine in, and then you like turn
yeah,
right. Like
yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That one was really good. Although like I don't know, I'm not too fancy, and it was just like a tinge more fancier than I needed it to be. But Leslie really liked it, so yeah, it was a good time in terms of food.
I think my food experience was overall, I guess, like less fun than you guys. I spent a lot of time at this Vapiano's because we were just like playing drafts there. I think overall, apart from just like being in France, I think it was like a lot of fun to just like host all these drafts at the hotel and the Airbnbs that we were staying at.
Mm.
Although I think word of advice to anybody who is traveling, I used to be like okay with Airbnbs, but I heard of a lot of kind of bad stories from everybody who went to Lille uh, this time.
You guys ended up with was it you guys or was it
Yeah, it
somebody?
was us.
It was not just us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I heard from like three or four different parties at separate Airbnbs that all had issues with bed bugs.
The
Oh,
the hotel that I had the last night of London that made me leave London early was like that. It was so bad that I refused to fall asleep in the hotel, and I couldn't like leave the hotel yet or whatever because like my bus trip wasn't until the morning, so I was like I
Hmm.
had to wait. It I paid extra for a place with two twin beds and AC. It had neither of these things. The place was not ventilated and had no screens in the windows. There was cigarette butts, mold. Um, the
oh.
beds had stains on the sheet and the bed itself. I think some of them were from bed bugs. And then when I was up, all night, I spent part of it just looking at reviews of the place, which I probably should have done in advance. But I'm not smart. Um, and one of the reviews really stuck out to me. Theft. Apparently, a lot of people had their rooms broken into and their baggage cut open and all of their valuables stolen out of their bags. And everyone was fairly certain that it was by the employees because the doors weren't kicked open; they were just regular opened.
Yes,
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So you gotta vet the places that you book when you're traveling abroad, or even just like away from where you normally live. How was the tournament experience for you overall?
Do you want to go into detail the whole thing?
However much detail you want to give.
Yeah, sure. So day one, draft pod, I forced Icelander because most of the time, kind of, you guys mentioned it in your other episode. A lot of people don't tend to want to draft Icelander, so I like hedging towards Icelander because it just is handed to me a lot.
Hmm.
And I got a good Icelander deck. I only saw one copy of the Arcane Barrier chess piece go around the entire draft, and it did not wheel. Um, and there was just something else in the pack for me that was better. It was like a Red Ice Vein or something. I don't remember. It was like pack two, and there was a card I needed for the deck. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm missing this. I need this. This will wheel because it seems like Icelander's open. And then, of course, round one, I faced the other Icelander, and I ended up with no Quell and no AB. I got him to one and then lost because didn't have AB.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I faced two of the fives in the pod. I think there was like I didn't check what was in my pod, but based on the quality of their decks, I think there was just like a Congo line of thighs, like four of them in a row, because they all just had poop soup decks, just tons of cards that they were actively didn't want in their deck.
Yeah.
Um,
The sigil protections.
yeah. And then Day 2 draft, I again hedged towards Icelander, but then my neighbor told me that they're Icelander very quickly, so I did not get what I wanted, and ended up being Dromai that was just like my seat is Dromai, so I drafted that. Ended up being directly across from the other Dromai. I think both of us had the best 2 decks in the pod. I ended up facing him in the second round of draft. That was a really fun mirror. And he was also a Prism main, I believe. So we knew the matchup pretty well. So that was interesting. Weirdly, I don't draft Dromai a lot. So that was, I think, my first Dromai mirror in draft, so that I was learning a bit while I was playing.
Yeah.
And then I ended up facing 2 of the 5s in the pod of round 1 and 3 of draft, and smushed them because they cannibalized each other's decks because Congo line of 5s, and I had probably the best deck in the pod next to that other Dromai. I ended up having like a really good pack 3, because I think every single person that he was passing to opened a dragon. So he didn't see any of the dragons pack 3, and they all just got fed to me.
Yeah. I think Dromai, you always like get into like a little bit of a pack lottery of sorts, depending on like where you're sitting and how the pack's open.
Yeah, my deck was like fine without them. It was still very good.
Yep.
And like there's still cards in those packs that I would have happily taken, like a Red Ember Maw or something. But I was like, I will gladly take this Kyloria or whatever it was I ended up grabbing.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the constructed portion, I ended up facing 0 Guardians. This is why we play Prism, to face 0 Guardians. Love to see it.
Yeah.
I think I faced like 4 or 5 Viscerai. I don't remember anymore. Let's backtrack. I faced 1 Lexi, 1 Mirror, a Briar. It was one of the Briars in top 8. Is that it? And everything else was Viscerai? I might be missing like 1 off deck, but basically
lots of 5 Viscerais.
Yeah. Notably, 2 of them was Pablo, and the other one was Yuki.
Yeah.
My game against Yuki was really interesting. It was I'm gonna go to 1 while you're at like 30 or something, and then win the game at 1. I had the auras, and then the top of my deck lined up nicely to what she drew, and she had the look on her face at the end of, how did this slip away? What happened? And then against Pablo, that was a really good game, but it was in the reverse where I was at like 30 and then he was at 0. Mm-hmm. He had a lot of lead the charges and stuff like that, so he basically never missed for a very long time on the go again. But his deck list did not have as much punching power as a lot of the other Viscerais. He wasn't playing like as many of the big attacks. Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening was every time he was doing that, I would just trade cards with him because he wasn't getting leak damage. And then he finally missed a round of punching 2 auras, and then it started slipping away from there. And then he whiffed one of the rounds on a go again, and then it just snowballed.
Yeah, I feel like Prism was very punishing to even like decks that are supposedly favored against Prism. If you kind of like miss on a round or 2, it's just like you get punished very hard. But we don't have to worry about that anymore because
yes, my queen
Yoris, who we were playing some drafts with the day before you won the calling.
What was the hotel that we were drafting at? That hotel was like
Novotel.
That was like the literal, like, that was Flesh and Blood Central at Lille.
Yeah.
James White was staying there, all those casters. That was, oh my, I wish I had started visiting that spot earlier.
Yeah, it was overall like a pretty good time. I had a great time just like hanging out with people that I normally wouldn't have gotten a chance to hang out with. I wanted to spend some time while we have our Pro Tour top 8 player, somebody who has a lot more accomplishments than either Michael or myself, to talk about kind of the CC going forward.
I don't know. You guys are goats too. Fucking nationals, 2nd place, calling champion.
No. We're
washed up. Well, okay. So CC now is kind of an interesting spot, right? Without Prism. Prism was, of course, keeping Oldhim back. Now we live in a world without Prism.
Yeah, I have a
Um,
stat that I wanted to talk about. So on the very first day of, or not the first day, the first week of nationals, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 CC nationals, and Oldham won 4 of them. Excuse me, Oldham won 4 of them, and Briar won 2. And I think before they reduced the LL points, I thought that Briar was kind of going to be like a lock to LL, but before Worlds, now they reduced the points, and Oldham has been doing really well.
I guess
how does that make you feel?
Rosetta sticks around.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about our icy overlords?
I don't appreciate these guardians acting like they get to play the game again.
Do you have any secret sauce?
I don't know. I'm not looking forward to this meta. I feel like no one's excited about most of their matchups. It's like you're either playing Oldhim and facing people that don't want to face Oldhim, or you're playing not Oldhim and hoping to face not Oldhim. And then it's just a bunch of Oldhim mirrors, and like I don't know. None of this sparks joy.
What sparked joy in the last meta for you?
Playing against Oldhams.
Seriously.
I don't get to face them. I don't get to face Oldhim.
Did that spark joy though? When you like play Oldhim into or Prism into Oldhim?
Not really, because it was just like a stomp. That's not joy sparking. But I also never got to. Actually, don't even know the last time I actually faced an Oldhim, because like I haven't faced one. I literally don't think I've faced an Oldhim since Aria, because it was Starvo after that. Yeah, I didn't face a single one at the Calling or the Pro Tour, all the Road to Nationals. I was also playing Icelander Roads though, but I still didn't see any Oldhims.
Like, I only ask because like you say, the current meta doesn't really spark joy. So like, what like did spark joy in past times?
The thing with this is it feels like there's one option basically, and it's play grindy games, where before the only option was play first cycle decks.
Mm-hmm.
And like you could play a second cycle Oldhim deck and just hope to gem format and not face Prism, which is an option. But I don't like that there's not a lot of diversity and choice when it comes to that. Of like you're either playing a second cycle Oldhim deck, or you're trying to play a deck that beats a second cycle Oldhim deck, and most of those are seconds. Like Icelander OTK, that's a second cycle deck. Dromai, that's a third cycle deck.
Often, yeah.
If you're playing an aggro deck, that game is going to probably still go to second cycle, and like you're not built for that, and you're just sitting there playing really passive, trying to like wait for the right round and like be really patient. Which, I'm not saying I don't like patient gameplay, but it's when every single round of the tournament is that gets a little boring.
Yeah, I think here's my view on the whole situation. I think that it's honestly just due to a lack of total decks available that you can play, that the metagame always gets like super condensed. And I think partially it's because of like the LL system and how fast heroes are rotating out. But I think if there's only ever like, let's call it like 8 decks that are viable, then you're always going to get like 2 to 3 that kind of rise to the top. I think if we had 20 decks that were viable, then you could like play matchup lottery a little bit more, and then you would get like a little bit more of a diversity. Because like if you were submitting Oldhim before when Prism was legal, like even if 10% of the people are gonna play Prism, and they're probably gonna do okay. One of our friends actually matchup lottery killed 4 Oldhims on the second day. It's just like
you can say his name. Cody Williams is proud of it.
I mean, I think it's just like if there were more decks like occupying the same niche as Prism that weren't just like auto losses for Oldhim, like maybe that would have been a better choice. And then maybe you can like punish some of the people who are just like going balls to the walls, like first cycle aggro. I don't know.
I 100% agree with that. And I think part of it too is like some of these decks are really polarizing. Like
Hmm.
Prism, very polarizing. Oldhim now, very polarizing, where you have these gatekeepers of the format where it's like you're either playing this or playing something that can beat this.
Yeah.
And if you don't do either of these things, then you don't even exist.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm hoping that as the game develops out a little bit more, that hopefully we'll see a slower rotation. I would like for the decks to get fleshed out a little bit more, like more cards get supported so that overall the power level increases a little bit. I think that's also like part of the issue. But looking forward to, I guess, like this week of Nats, there's a couple. I think like the big ones this week are gonna be Canada. I think Canada is like the big one, and maybe Spain. Uh, do you guys think that it's gonna be kind of more or less the same story, just old him domination, or do you think that there's options for people to kind of attack the metagame, so to speak?
I don't know if we can say that Oldhim is dominating. I mean, he may have won for nationals, but like those top eights were not like just straight up 5 or 6 Oldhims every time. And I'm pretty sure in the finals of almost all of those, it wasn't an Oldhim mirror.
Right.
Um, like Tomita doesn't spell dominance. Like if you were to ask people like, what do you think is the best deck in CC? I'm not sure there is like a hands down best deck.
Mm-hmm.
The other 4 nationals, what it was like 2 Briar, 1 Dromai, and 1 Rhinar.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there are decks that can kind of take advantage of the way Oldhim operates on multiple axes. Like Oldhim only usually has 1 action point. Oldhim's actual raw damage output isn't very high. Like Oldhim actually doesn't play a lot of 3 blocks. Like it has one of the highest 2 block counts for a deck. At
Yeah.
least like compared to like I don't know like a hero like Dash or any of the warriors. Like there's a lot of like ways to exploit Oldhim, and I'm not really sure it's the best deck. It might be there is like a dynamic where like these slower decks, these more controlling decks, um, players who have more experience tend to gravitate towards them through a combination of they've played it more often, they feel like there's more agency, they
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do like what people say like coin flip aggro matchups. But I don't know. I don't feel like there's an Oldhim dominance, but I do feel like Oldhim is a huge part of the meta. Like I would expect Oldhim to start becoming like a third to about a third of
Yeah,
like
a third is
tournament
pretty.
prizes.
A third is pretty big. A third is like kind of where Starro was at
I
Mm.
think
before.
Starvo is like closer to agree. But that was like a weird format. That was also just like a 3 deck format. Like right now
Yeah,
we're like in an 8 deck format. A third is just like double
yeah,
that representation.
I don't know if it's necessarily like an 8 deck format right now. I think that part of that might just be because we're so early into the meta.
I guess just to answer your question, I don't think that Ultim is dominating. I still expect Ultim to put up results, but I think that if you're, having nationals this weekend and you don't have like a rock solid Ultim plan,
yeah.
you'd be doing yourself a disservice. And I do expect other decks to be able to like beat Ultim, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were like tech cards or like 5 or 6 extra cards in your sideboard that are almost just dedicated to beating Ultim.
Fair enough.
Pheano, how do you feel? What do you think? What do you expect with nationals this week?
I think, I don't know about this week specifically,
Sure.
but I think that whoever can figure out an aggro deck that can overcome Oldhim might just be the best deck in format. And
Right.
just like, kind of like last year where we just like, oh, we have this, like, do you guys remember last national season? We had like going into that this perception that was like Prism Bravo, probably the best 2 decks. And
Mhm.
then Briar came out of nowhere and it was suddenly a Briar format. And then the meta developed from there. Like,
Wait, is this like the original, like first nationals ever?
yeah. No, or I don't know if there was one before that, but like
No,
last
yeah. I guess there were, but you're talking about U.S. nationals.
we had the one where Briar won the
Mhm.
whole thing, and then I think it was the one that Folks won.
Yeah.
And then but the week before that, the perception of the community was not Briar was the deck to beat, and then suddenly, oops, Briar, and then that was just the deck that you were either playing that or you knew that was going on and brought a deck to beat it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that just turned the format on its head just overnight, essentially. If someone was to do that again, I think we're literally in this spot of the Oldhim is like the deck to beat, of like you're either playing it or you're playing a deck that beats it. But if someone figures that out, like you're now the de facto best deck in format because you have officially beaten the gatekeeper.
I'm really hoping that it's Dromai. I'm crossing my fingers.
Yeah.
I made Michael sign a pact with me where he would tell me not to register Guardian. Every time I register Guardian at these large tournaments, I've done this twice now, at US Nationals and also at Pro Tour. I mental boomed myself. I'm in a bad spot. And then I just end up registering this like kind of terrible Guardian list.
Mhm.
And I go like 2-6 in CC. I have no one to blame but myself.
Don't do that.
And so, so this time I told Michael, I was like, Michael, you have to tell me, don't submit Guardian. So I may have locked myself out of playing the gatekeeper.
Well, you guys don't have to worry about me ever playing that. Ugh.
Oh my God, it's so funny. So before we were recording, we actually got a recording delayed by half an hour because Michael wanted to play on Talishar before. And, like these games usually go pretty fast. Like I think he started the game at like 120, 130.
Yeah.
And we were going to record at 2. But of course, it just ended up being an Oldhim mirror. And we were watching it from the other player's perspective because Michael was playing against Cody Williams. Oh my God.
I thought I could sneak in a quick one. Honestly, my ultimate mirrors are usually under 30 minutes, but I didn't realize we were going to go to turn 39 and be on 2 to 3 cards left in deck.
Podcast to record in a few minutes. I can squeak an Oldhim mirror in.
I was watching him like play games and I was like, I want some of this action. And then I joined and I was like, oh shoot, I forgot 2 p.m. is what we have to do the podcast.
Oops.
I actually played a little differently. I just like try to be more aggressive and then I just ate staunches, so I don't know.
and then he wrote in the chat, he's like, tell Pheano and Yanji I'm gonna be late. But it's like in the in-game chat.
Yeah. Well, Cody was like high fang, and I was like, all right, I guess you guys figured it out.
He was like, nobody blocks with that card except for Fang.
Yes,
He's got your number.
Yeah.
I feel like there is some negativity about the current meta, but I actually do kind of like when there's no question mark, because I really feel like first of all during the Starbow meta, like I just felt like Starbow was like just like nuts. Like yeah, like maybe he was not consistently winning, or sometimes he would lose, but like overall the consistency and just kind of like the strength of what he was doing was just like so powerful. Even decks that could try to like take advantage of it sometimes just they couldn't also play unmovable.
Dude, LSS boomed me. I was so sad. It's like, okay, they're like, Starvow's a problem. You know what we're going to do? We're going to ban Autumn's Touch. Viserai hasn't won anything. We're going to ban the card that like makes him function.
That is something I find really funny. I remember like you and I were both on. I just copied your Viserai list basically.
Yeah.
And then like Skelito was banned, and just like overnight, the ultimate matchup, which was like free, just became like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's like the greatest swing in history. It's like before I felt like Oldhim Viserai versus Oldhim with Skeletta is like 95% for the Viserai to win, and then now it's like 20% for the Viserai to win.
Yeah. Like how it's maybe they could do that. Like, could you do that with like Prism? You just like ban like Luminaris. Like how?
Yeah,
I can't even imagine like a bigger swing.
Yeah, if you're playing Prism, they're like, oh, Prism is a problem. Just ban Luminaris.
People were calling for that. They like the chat or the comment section of all those things were like, why Scalata and not Lu? I was like, what the hell? What did I do?
It's just catching strays. I have a deck that I've been working on for a while, and I hope that I don't just like decide to pivot into a Guardian at the last second again.
Okay, I'll I'll conspire with the hotel because you probably didn't, read any reviews about it, and then we'll like sneak into your room. I'll cut open your luggage, just steal your Guardian cards. Just wake up the next morning like, oh, this is the only thing I can play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say just break and displace and take them. Can't play them now.
Ugh.
Outplayed.
I wanted to kind of end with, I guess, like some funny stories from the past couple of weeks. Pheano, you have like a grudge against one of the people that we were hanging out with for a pasta related incident.
So it was the eve before the pro tour, and someone in our Discord was like, "Hey, make sure you guys sign up for the banquet if you haven't already, and get a +1 just in case anyone in the group forgets or has someone they didn't get a +1 for."
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Okay, got the +1." And we get there, and Brody forgot to register for the banquet. So I was like, "You can have my +1, whatever." And we get in and kind of make my round, say hi to everyone. I come back to the group and I see Brody eating, and he's eating just plain pasta, nothing on it, no butter, no sauce, no cheese. He had to specifically ask for pasta without anything on it because all they had was pasta with stuff on it. I was like, I can't believe you wasted the +1 to get pasta with nothing on it. I would have accepted not eating at all over this because the food wasn't good enough for your standards. But no. Pasta with nothing? I almost ripped the armband for getting into the area off his arm when I saw that. I was like, leave. I personally ate nothing when I was in there because
Yeah,
the food didn't look as good as last Pro Tour,
mm-hmm.
but also in France, why would I eat what they had there when I have all of these amazing food things in the area to try? And this is okay, or I could go have amazing, fantastic, best of food I've had in my life. But plain pasta.
Yeah, we hung out with Brody quite a bit because he was staying with us, and he has a different outlook on food. Kind of just views it as calories.
We got him to start trying stuff by the end of the weekend. I had a funny conversation with him. He was like, "Wait, so you mean I don't have to like it? I don't have to buy it. I just have to try it." Yes, just try it. Expand your horizons, Brody. Don't just have plain food. You don't have to like it. Just try a bite of whatever is around you, just to expand your horizon.
I mean, it's just gaining experience, and you never know. Maybe you'll like it. Michael, do you have any funny stories from France?
Funny stories from France. I can't think of anything that was too funny. I really liked Pheano, by the way. You made it sound not so fun, but
No.
I would have gone there every day.
I'm just saying that I spent a lot of time there.
Oh, like you didn't really get to like try like these like
Yeah.
more like hole in the wall fun. Okay.
I did on one day go with Lazy Dog, and we went to this like we were like in this upstairs like dining place, and then they were serving, I think, like local to Lille kind of dishes. One of them was this like Welsh stew thing, or it was like some kind of stew. I think that was like pretty famous locally, and then we had some drinks. That was pretty nice, but I think, yeah, overall just kind of stuck to the chains. I did get to go to a bakery early in the morning in the town square. I thought that was pretty good. I have a funny story. So on the night after Pro Tour Sunday, I think Cale McCreath posts online, and he's like, "Does anyone want to get like smashed?" And so we ended up like meeting up with him. Well, first of all, we're at this like really small bar that it's like one of those like places that you might like take somebody out for a date on, like kind of low key. We're like standing outside. We're like a group of like 30 rowdy flesh and blood players, and then Kale's like, "Get everyone 2 shots." blah, blah, blah. And then the bartender is like, oh, we don't really do that here. I'll pour you guys a shot, so you gotta like move next door. And next door there was like this like kind of like DJ like bar, like dance bar, whatever kind of thing. It was like a little bit more like suited. Fast forward a little bit, so the bar like closes. We're like trying to walk to go to this like uh 24 hour like bistro supposedly. Okay, also side note, never trust lazy dog when he says something is 5 minutes away, because it's 5 minutes away. You're walking for 15 minutes and you're like, do you know where we're going? And he's like, oh yeah, it's 5 minutes away.
5 minutes driving, probably.
No. Okay, so the story behind that is the place that we were originally going to go to was closed, but he failed to tell any of us that, and then we were just going to walk somewhere else. But in any case, I was like walking next to Kale and this other guy from New Zealand. I forget his name right now. And Kale at this point was just like hammered. And then he gets into a fight with like a parked car. He's like, oh, I just want to punch this car. And then after that, starts like walking into the middle of the street at this like other car that's like swerving. I thought we were gonna get into some kind of legal issues. We were just trying to diffuse the situation because the driver like stopped after Kale like slapped his car after he like swerved out of the way. He's like, "Are you okay?" I think he thought he hit him. Oh my gosh. I don't know. That was definitely a night that I'll remember for a while.
Kale wanted to give him the Boston beatdown.
Yeah, the New Zealand, the Auckland beatdown. I don't know. It was definitely a kind of interesting night. I think when we finally got to the spot, it was like a nightclub, and there's like all these people who are like dressed well, and we're like all in our fucking flesh and blood shorts, and some of us have backpacks. And I was like, I'm calling it. At every point in like a night out, you gotta just like there's a stopping point, and you
Yeah,
gotta
this
find
ain't
out you gotta find out where the stopping point is.
it. This ain't it. We're going home.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm calling a cab back to the hotel. Whoever wants to come with me, you can come with me.
Sounds like I missed out.
I don't know, but I don't know. That's what it was. I think overall it was a good time to be had. I'm kind of excited for U.S. Nationals coming up, but then I'm a little bit more excited for Worlds after that.
Yeah, Nationals is play testing for Worlds.
Yeah. Unless they hit us with the spicy.
Crown of Seeds ban.
I don't know. I my greatest hope for this game is that they release more heroes. I just want more decks. Do you guys have any parting thoughts?
I'm curious, are you guys enjoying this meta currently?
Um, okay, one thing that I do like about this meta that I've been playing, a lot of the games that I've been playing kind of feel more like OG Flesh and Blood, like a lot of like grinding for value,
Hmm.
playing for little incremental advantages. And I think that the reason why that didn't exist as much before is because they kind of banned out like a lot of the high powered stuff in the formats. Obviously Oldhim is still pretty strong, but the way that Oldhim is strong is not like, I don't think it's overbearing to the same degree that like Chain, Starvo or even Skeletivis.
Yeah, I feel very similarly. I think like pitch stacking is a skill, and I think it's like something that right now the current meta kind of rewards deck players who are, I guess, comfortable doing that, comfortable like being intentional with not just the cards they pitch, but the specific order, even if it's just two cards, right? Like kind of like deciding one over the other throughout a course of the game, and it does kind of feel like, I do know that these games do get grindy, and because I know you mentioned that, Pheano, but I do feel like the grinder games do reward like experience and just kind of like navigation. Whereas, of course, there are always going to be aggressive mirror decks that, two decks that both are just not ever wanting to draw the second cycle. In fact, they might not even draw half of the deck, right? Like there's still going to be that. But I think you get more choices. I do feel um, like when we were playing, like just this last meta, like if you're playing like an aggressive deck, like you never hit the second cycle. But
Mhm.
right now, I do feel like against like Ultim, like some of these decks that are aggressive, like Briar or Bizaride, they have like a different plan. I think that's good. I'm
Chain,
not
chain,
sure if
chain hit the second cycle. It's just like
yeah, yeah.
the four blues that you pitched, and then you draw them, and then you either win with them or you do or you don't.
No, sorry, I mean the uh Lil.
Oh, okay.
Like I didn't feel like there was a lot of second cycling unless it was a Guardian Mirror.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like that's happening a lot more now, and it is like uncomfortable. I feel like you've never like really considered Flesh and Blood that way, but I do think it is a really cool part of the game that I don't really know any other games. I don't really have experience with a lot of games, but like I played Magic. Magic never had pitch stacking your deck, and I think it's really cool that that can be one of your win conditions, and it's like a skill that you can practice.
Yeah, it feels weird because I haven't, prior to practicing for this next meta, haven't gone to second cycle in a classic constructed game since Monarch. None of the games have gone to that point. It's always win or lose before then.
Yeah,
I used to have these I used to have to do cursed pitch stacks in Prism before, where I'm setting up like Erudition tome stacks at the end of the game.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I haven't had to use that muscle in almost a year now. Feels weird. Also, I have no problem with grindy games, just to point that out. I actually really enjoy grindy games.
Yeah.
My gripe was just if every single game is
Yeah.
it can get a little tiresome.
Oh, fair, fair.
It's time for the boomer Flesh and Blood players to rise.
Mhm.
It's our time again.
New Zealand's going to rise back up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
All right.
I can't wait to see what nationals this weekend are going to be. Like anyone that streams their nationals, I'll be trying to watch them. It's just always interesting because especially some of these like different countries and different regions have like slightly different metas, and it's going to be really cool when we all get back together for nationals, just to like, I don't know, do a fun draft at some bar, pub, or whatever, and just kick it. I love that. Thanks so much for joining us, Pheano, and
So should I
sharing some
bring
of
my
that.
Innistrad cube for us to draft at nationals?
Ooh.
You could. How many? What's it called? Sprouts form, or what's the thing that makes a bunch of
Spider
one piece?
swarming.
Yeah. How many of those are in the cube?
The correct ratio that should be in an original booster draft.
Oh, okay, okay. So that like,
I collated the packs to be the same pull ratios as it would be opening the original pack. That
is
took
that
a
right?
very long time figuring out the math of that because there's not a lot of info for back then. So I just had to sit down and just watch a shitload of pack openings and do the math myself.
Do you know it off the top of your head, like a random, like a specific uncommon? Is it like one or two per draft, or two,
I
three?
think it's between 1 and 3 that's opened in an 8-man
Okay,
pod. I
okay.
don't remember anymore because I literally haven't touched the cube since before COVID.
Gotcha.
I made it, and then COVID hit, and I was like, shit. Rip magic.
Ah, well, this is a lot of fun. Hopefully one of us will win the U.S. Nationals and we can do this episode again.
Fang needs to get a second again so we can go to IHOP again.
Oh man,
Oh, all right, that is a
no,
story to
Denny's,
share.
Denny's.
Denny's.
Denny's. That's
Ah,
now that's such. I told you guys this before, but for the viewers, this became a tradition in my circle. Whoever does best at an event gets to choose food for the group at the end.
Yep.
And now we also have a few. Like we went to a few things where like the tournament end at a really like fucked time.
yeah.
Like there was one that we went to where it ended at like 2 or 3 a.m. Obviously, there's no food open, so we have like 2 people in our group that have banked food of choosing, so they're all going to be fighting who gets to pick food for the when we go the first couple days at Nats.
Excellent,
Denny's
excellent.
is great. Don't hate on the Denny's.
Yes, yes. Hopefully, no more sad Denny's this
Yeah.
time. All right. Well, See you guys on the next one. Hopefully, I think we'll do another episode maybe right before. It'll be right before we travel for nationals, or maybe yeah, it'll be right before we
Yeah.
travel for nationals next week. Uh, maybe like something a little bit more in depth on kind of like what the decks that we think are going to be at US. Thank you for joining us, and till the
Thanks for
next
having
one.
me on.